What's this? An excellent person watching my video? Incredible. Subscribe and let's crank up the awesomeness. Here we go. Honestly, I never imagined I'd be the guy who overhears his own wife bad-mouthing him to her friends. This definitely wasn't the picture I had in mind. There I was, parked at the far end of a long dinner table, swirling the dregs of my drink, while my wife, Lauren, was fully in her element, entertaining her friends. She's always been the life and soul of the party with this group, laughing, chatting, and just feeding off their energy. It used to be something I admired about her, the way she could just command a room's attention. But tonight, I was wishing I'd just skipped out and stayed home. The place was buzzing with people talking, forks clattering on plates, and glasses clinking together in spontaneous toasts, though really for no particular reason. Everything had started off just fine. Another typical night with her crew. The ones I never really clicked with but tolerated, just for Lauren. I wasn't really invested in whatever they were talking about, distancing myself and keeping tabs on the time, counting down till we could make our exit. Then I heard my name. I might have missed the start, but that punchline landed with a thud. "Ugh, don't even get me started on him," Lauren declared with a grand eye roll. "Honestly, he's nothing more than a roommate these days." Laughter erupted around the table, light and breezy. The words hit like a slap, and I blinked, feeling my stomach twist, but managed to keep my face unreadable. I've gotten good at pretending nothing bothers me. One of her friends piped up, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" Lauren leaned in, a smirk on her lips like she had some inside joke I wasn't in on. "Well, we hardly ever talk or do anything together. He's just there." More laughter rolled around the table. I gazed at my drink, noticing the ice melting into the whiskey, turning it to nothing but watered-down disappointment. I tried convincing myself she was joking, that it was just her sense of humor trying to entertain. But it wasn't just her words, it was the way they came out, like I was simply irrelevant in her world. I glanced over at her, hoping against hope for some glimmer of regret, a sign that she got she'd overstepped. But there was zilch. She was all smiles, lost in laughter, without a worry in the world. Worse still, her friends seemed unfazed, like they'd heard it all before. That realization hit me harder than anything, with my heart thumping loudly in my chest, ticking away like a clock winding down to something inevitable. Part of me wanted to just stand up and leave, make some grand scene, but I didn't. I stayed put, eyes fixed on my drink, soaking up the moment. And right there, in that quiet mental corner, something shifted, something broke. Neither anger nor sadness set in, only clarity. Lauren didn't respect me. Maybe she never truly did. But that was going to change. I took a steadying breath, placing my glass down gently as if it might break. I kept quiet for the rest of the night. And Lauren, she didn't even notice. But she would soon enough, because that was the last time I'd allow her to demean me. The drive home was silent. Lauren, in good spirits, was busying herself with her phone, humming away like nothing had happened, as if mocking me with her roommate jab wasn't a big deal. I focused on the road, gripping the steering wheel with unnecessary force as the city lights sped by, neon trails and car headlights dancing on the windshield. I wasn't sure what I hoped for, that she'd look over, sense the tension, acknowledge the vibe, maybe even say sorry, not for the joke, but for making me feel so small. But she didn't. She was completely unfazed, and that hurt more than the words themselves. When we finally pulled up at the house, I decided it was time to speak. "What was that about?" I asked, voice even and steady. Lauren barely glanced up. "What was what?" she replied. "The so-called joke at dinner." I pressed further. She blinked, letting out a tired sigh. "Oh, that. You're not actually upset about that, are you?" I turned the car engine off but stayed put. I needed answers. "So, is belittling me your idea of a joke?" She sighed again, clearly annoyed. "Oh my God, stop being so dramatic. It was just a joke." So there I was just saying, a joke, and it felt like the word was stuck in my mouth, something I needed to spit out. Lauren just shrugged, acting all nonchalant. "You're acting like I said something terrible," she said, her eyes glued to her phone, flipping through notifications like we weren't even having a conversation. It was the last straw for me. Something inside just snapped. I'd been dealing with this for too long. Anger turned to emptiness as I realized I was done. Done pouring effort into a relationship where she laughed behind my back. I nodded, opened the car door, and walked away. She didn't ask what I meant, didn't follow. She simply didn't care. And if she didn't, then why should I? That night I kept my silence, took a shower, climbed into bed, and switched off the lamp without waiting for her. She carried on scrolling through her phone, eventually sighing and turning off her light. No good nights, no effort to fix things. She just fell asleep. And in the quiet, I realized I was fighting for something she'd already let go of. So I stopped. I stopped asking about her day, stopped initiating conversations, stopped caring. Next morning, I woke up to silence. No greeting, no coffee offered or made for her. I just drank my own and left for work. At first, Lauren didn't seem to see the change. Over the next few days, she slowly realized something was off. She'd ask me to grab something at the store, and I'd just give a shrug instead of rushing to help. She'd complain about her job, expecting my sympathetic nod, but I just nodded half-heartedly. No arguments, no heated discussions, just growing distance, a quiet gap between us. For the first time, I noticed a flicker of worry in her eyes, like she finally sensed something was wrong, but she said nothing. The laughter stopped, and she'd soon understand why. An entire week passed, marked by cold indifference on my end, and still Lauren didn't catch on. Maybe she thought I was waiting for her to make things better, thought I'd bounce back as usual. She was wrong. The fire of anger was gone. I had become a ghost in my own life. I didn't react to her sarcasm, didn't argue, didn't even look at her. I'd long since given up hope she'd ever apologize. So when she suggested dinner at my parents' place, I nearly laughed at the irony, knowing the truth would come out there. We arrived at my folks just before the sun set. The house enveloped us in warmth, that familiar smell of a homemade meal, a feeling I'd missed dearly. Mom welcomed us with hugs. Dad gave his usual firm handshake. They were good people, fond of Lauren. But I wondered how long that'd last. As we sat at the dinner table, plates full, we chatted about life's usual matters. My responses were short. Then the moment came. Mom turned to Lauren with her typical warm smile, asking how things were between us. Lauren laughed, waving her fork around. "Oh, he's just there." Her words felt like a repeat, squeezing my chest, but I stayed composed. Mom noticed, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean?" she pressed. Lauren nudged my arm like she was sharing a joke nobody else would get. "He's been off in his own little universe lately," she chuckled. "Like I'm just living with a roommate." Silence fell over the room. Mom's smile faded, and Dad quietly set his fork down. I stayed put, absorbing the weight of it all. Lauren, none the wiser, kept talking. "I mean, really, I'm carrying this whole marriage on my own," she laughed. "He barely even speaks now." Mom's eyes were on me, and when I glanced back, I could see she understood everything without a word being said. She knew the truth about Lauren. There was disappointment there, the kind I hadn't seen from her in years. Meanwhile, Lauren was oblivious. It wasn't anger I felt anymore, just pure exhaustion. So I decided to drop a bombshell, a real smile, sincere for the first time in ages, and I spoke to Lauren straight up. "You're right," I said, keeping my voice even. "I've been distant." She blinked, caught completely off guard. "Guess it just hit me." I settled back in my chair and didn't beat around the bush. "You don't really want a husband, do you?" Her face fell for a second, but I stayed unfazed. "What you want is an audience," I continued. "Someone to laugh at your jokes while you make me the butt of them to everyone else." Lauren's smile turned uncertain. "You want a roommate?" I tilted my head her way. "That's cool. I can be that." The room went quiet, like all the air had been sucked out of it. My parents shared a look but kept their opinions zipped up. Lauren rolled her eyes, though a tinge of nervousness slipped in. "Oh, come on, you're overreacting." I just looked at her, calm as ever. "No," I said. "I'm just done putting in more effort than you." She tried to come up with something to say, but failed. And there it was, fear creeping in. For the first time, she knew something important had shifted in me, and it scared her. Dinner wrapped up awkwardly, with Lauren mostly quiet. She thought I was bluffing, that she still had the upper hand, but she was in for a shock later on, because when we got home, my plan was to leave for good. The drive back was tight with silence. Lauren stayed quiet, arms crossed, jaw clenched, nothing said since leaving my parents' place. Back there, I'd seen it in her eyes. A flicker of realization, like maybe she'd pushed too far. But no apologies, no peace offerings came. I parked the car, turned off the engine, and just sat there. She did the same, until the quiet exploded with her bitter little laugh. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "You're acting like a child." I turned to face her, and it hit me that she still didn't get it. Thought it was just a small tiff that would blow over. But it wasn't. This was it. I opened the car, got out, and walked inside, silent. Lauren trailed behind, quick on her feet. "So that's it? You're just going to sulk now?" she prodded. But I wasn't sulking. I was packing. I headed to the bedroom, whipped out a suitcase, and started folding clothes. Lauren stopped, her voice shaky now. "What are you doing?" I stayed focused on packing, not meeting her eyes. "Packing," I replied. She laughed then, a soulless sound. "Oh, stop being so dramatic." But she wasn't convincing anyone. "Wait," she said, her voice sharpening as she moved closer. "You're not actually leaving, are you?" I didn't answer because yes, I was. I gathered what I needed. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. Just enough to send a crystal clear message. Okay, Lauren cut in, frustration lacing her words. "You've made your point. You're pissed. Now quit acting stupid." That actually made me look at her, really look, and whatever she saw, it shut her up. She knew this was no game, no empty threat. This time was different. "Where are you even going?" she asked, her voice softer now. "Does it matter?" I shot back. Her gaze flicked to the suitcase, back to me. She wanted to say something to stop me, but didn't. She couldn't. I zipped up the suitcase and walked past her. She didn't try to hold me, didn't reach out, didn't fight it, and somehow that hurt more than if she had. Picking up my keys, I pulled open the front door, and just before I left, she said it. The last words she spoke before I walked out for good. "You'll be back," like it was a matter of fact, like she still held all the cards, like I was just the same guy who'd put up with her stuff for years. I turned around, gave her a weary smile. "No," I said, "I won't." And I stepped out, closing the door behind me. From the get-go that night, Lauren didn't seem fazed at all. There weren't any calls or texts coming in. She probably thought I was cooling down at a buddy's place, expecting I'd stroll back in a few days, ready to brush everything aside. But she guessed wrong. By the time the second day rolled around, the quiet hit differently. I envisioned her getting up, assuming she'd find me in the kitchen brewing coffee like usual. But nope, the house stayed eerily silent. No sounds from the other room, just pure emptiness. I imagined Lauren scrolling through her phone, holding out hope that if she just waited. I couldn't keep the silence up any longer, so I got the ball rolling. By day 3, things changed. She finally texted, "Where are you?" No, "Are you okay?" Or "Can we talk?" Not even an "I miss you." Just 3 words that felt more like a search for a misplaced item, rather than checking on someone she cared about. I let the message sit there, unread, because it wasn't me she was missing. It was the convenience of my presence, and that wasn't something I was about to hand back to her. By the 5th day, the house must have felt off to her. I knew because that's when her calls came. A phone ringing and ringing, leaving no voicemails, no text updates. Just silence. For once, she was on pause, and it was gnawing at her. A whole week went by with no word, no discussions, no apologies. By then, she must have realized how cold and long the days could be, how the silence was too loud to ignore. At the start, she might have enjoyed the space, welcomed the quiet. But soon reality began to bite. Trash piling up, groceries dwindling, laundry stacking sky high. And the worst part, there was no one to share small talk with or listen to her rant. I had been the glue holding it all together, and now she was stuck with the chaos she had crafted herself. 10 days in, she finally crumbled. Late one night, she left a voicemail, not her usual sarcastic self, but small, shaky, afraid. Hey, I don't know if you'll even hear this, but can we talk? She paused and admitted, I think I messed up. It was the first genuine sign of regret, but by then, it was too late. I stared at the message for what seemed like forever, then pressed delete. In my new space, in a new chapter of life without her, relief washed over me, something I hadn't felt in ages. I'd moved on, and now the tables had turned, leaving her without a laugh. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for her to really get it. Not just that I was physically absent, but that she had lost me for good. On day 14, another voicemail popped up, her third attempt. The first was hesitant, the second defensive, but this one was drenched in desperation. Her voice was unstable with remorse. Please, just talk to me. I played it out loud, letting the silence after her plea sink in. No more excuses, no blaming me for overreacting, just raw fear, not of losing our relationship, but of what life would be like alone. I didn't reach out because this was her reality to face. Later that evening, a knock sounded on my door. I knew who it was, but I let her wait in the hallway. When I finally swung open the door, she looked different, disheveled, exhausted, nothing like her usual composed self. Her hair was a mess, shadows were etched under her eyes. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and asked, What do you want, Lauren? Hearing her name, plain and direct, not babe, not hey, just Lauren, cracked her remaining facade. She attempted a weak smile, hoping to scrape back something. Can we talk? She asked. I stood firm. We're talking. She took a shaky breath. I just... Words failed her. I don't know how to fix this. Fix this, as if our situation was a malfunctioning machine. I tilted my head and asked, Why do you want to fix it? The silence that hung spoke volumes. Deep down, she didn't want to fix us. She wanted to undo the consequences, hoping for a return to times where her jabs went without consequence, where I always forgave, where I'd never leave. But those days were history. I get it now, she finally whispered. I stayed silent, letting her sit with it. She looked away, battling tears. I wasn't there to comfort her any longer. She exhaled, her breath shaky. Is there any chance? Her voice was softer than before. She knew the answer already. I watched her for a moment and finally said what had been on my mind for weeks. No. She looked like she was about to argue, but she closed her mouth. She got it, for once. I gently closed the door as Lauren walked away. It wasn't out of anger or bitterness. It was just truly over. A month later, I was sitting in a cafe, sipping my drink and feeling lighter than I had in years. I wasn't glued to my phone, waiting for a message. I wasn't walking on eggshells, scared of starting another unwinnable argument. It felt like I was finally free after such a long time. As for Lauren, she was just another chapter in my past. Her sarcastic comments, the way she put me down, those were all parts of a life I walked away from. She used to laugh at me, make fun of me, and put me down in front of others. But when all was said and done, I was the one smiling. I discovered happiness and she was left with silence. The same silence she once ignored. Now it was all hers.